all I did was just pick up my camera. I aimed it at what I thought was a bear. Same time I did that, it saw us, and it put a scream out, Les, that it scared me like you wouldn't believe. Plus, it echoed because the base of the mountain there, and then it charged us, and all I could think about was taking off running. I never thought about, hey, click, click. I could have had the $1 million photograph. I didn't think about it. Didn't even come across my mind.
Fight or flight. I mean, that's what our bodies go through. And I mean, when you see something like that, that's what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. I will say this, and James, don't laugh back there. I don't think some people claim I've had on my show that Bigfoot, here, they give off orbs. They communicate to you. They give out peace and love. I didn't see that. What I saw, this thing chase us. We get back to the car. I'm opening the car door. My friend is not quite there yet. I got the key in the car. I started it, and I dropped it. And it was my wife's brand new car. She let me take it on the trip, because she didn't think the car I had was dependable enough. And I dropped it in gear, not even thinking about my friend. And at that point, my friend just got his hands on the car door and opened it, and I was dragging him. I could have killed him, and thank God I didn't. But at the same time, this creature, or whatever it was, threw a huge rock, took out the passenger fender, near the door and part of the door. The bad thing is, we were terrified. We cruise about maybe 15, 16, 20 miles. We find a little store, out in the middle of nowhere. We go in. We decided we wanted to get a drink, calm down. The guy looked at us and he goes, what happened? What happened? He could tell we were freaked out. And we said, we saw a Bigfoot. And the guy goes, yes, there's been sightings around here. And he didn't know we were Americans at that point. He goes, well, you were out there. Are you carrying rifles, pistols, or anything? Because there's been a lot of bear around here. And I go, no. He goes, did you have bear spray? No. What scared me even more is a week before that, a guy and his wife went out hiking in that area. And I guess she injured herself. He went to get help. By the time he went and got help, a couple hours later and got back, his wife was half, eaten by a bear.
That's horrible. That's horrible.
Yeah, I get these hunters that claim that they're going out looking for Bigfoot, and I asked them, I said, do you pack anything? And one guy I had on, who claims he's a Bigfoot hunter, says, yeah, I carry a 6-inch knife with me. And I started thinking, what is that going to protect you from? If anything bad happens, not even Bigfoot. I mean, depending on where you live, there's cougars, there's mountain lions, there's bears and all this stuff. Going out in the woods looking for Bigfoot, if you're not, prepared, you're looking something bad to happen.
Yeah, that's for sure. I definitely carry a sidearm with me all the time. Not because I'm worried that Bigfoot's going to grab me, but we do have coyotes here quite a bit. We have black bears, which are generally not too aggressive unless it's like, during springtime when they're first, getting out moving around, or if they have cubs or something like that. But yeah, I definitely carry a sidearm. It's not exactly smart not to anymore. Like I said, the coyote problem here, when I was a kid, we never even heard of that around here. But now they're pretty expand, or there's quite a bit of numbers of them, and they're sneaky. My son and I went out, and he told me, he said, Dad, I think there's a deer coming through the woods. And I turned around and I said, where? And he's like trying to point through the trees, and I was like, no, that's not a deer. It was a coyote coming. It was only like 25 feet from our camp, sneaking down into our camp.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not even that. And depending on where you're at, up here on the West Coast, you got wolves and you got pack dogs, that are just as dangerous when these feral dogs get, in a pack, and they can be really aggressive. So you got to be careful. What other cryptids have you, ran across or got reports on in your area? Any others?
like most of it's Bigfoot stuff. Then you'll get the odd, just something odd off the wall. The one I can think of right off the hand is a lady contacted me, said her sister-in-law and her brother were driving, and they saw something jump across the road in front of their truck and up onto the bank on the other side of the road. And she described it as a deer-sized animal on 4 legs that actually had like a human-shaped head. You know, that's probably one of the oddest ones I've had. But like I said, a lot of it's Bigfoot. I mean, that's the main thing that's been coming into me here recently.
How many reports are you getting on Bigfoot?
I started keeping track of it, like a map and stuff. October of this year would have been 2 years, and I got a folder here. I probably got about somewhere between 60 and 70 over the past 2 years.
Well, out of these 60 or 70 reports, how many of them, did anybody ever say that they're aggressive? Or are you getting reports where people said they throw rocks or they give off orbs or the fuzzy, warm feelings? What type of reports are you getting?
The orb thing, no, I've not heard that. I've really not heard that at all. The rock throwing has, it comes across a good bit. One of them that sticks out to me is this gentleman and his friend were fishing on a lake in southern West Virginia. It's a pretty good sized lake. It's called Bluestone Lake. They were night fishing. He said they had lights on their boat, and this guy told me, he's like, he actually talked to him on the phone. Yeah, he normally the first step is I talk to him via message and stuff like that, but he didn't want any kind of written. He said, I don't want to where it comes back to me. He said, because my job and things like this. But he called me, so I talked to him firsthand on the phone to start with. He said that they were fishing, and he had a gun. He said I had a pretty good sized rifle that I carried with me in the boat with me, also because in case of bear or anything like that. He said they started hearing noise in the water. He said almost like if it was bait fish, like when bigger fish run, the small fish will start to run along the shores and stuff like that. And then they started hearing grunting noises. When he turned his large spotlight toward that area back in a cove, he seen eye shine, like reflections from 2 animals. And he immediately first thought, well, there's 2 deer that got into the water. The deer swim across the lake or something. Then he noticed, no, these aren't deer. And that's when he noticed that it was 2 human shapes, he said, 2 humanoid shapes that were covered in, he said, apparently to him it looked like it was black. He said it could have been wet because it was wet. One was smaller, one was fairly taller. The smaller one turned around, walked back toward the bank, and went up on the bank, and he said just stooped down, like squat down, like it was trying to hide beside this big tree. The other one that he saw, he said immediately he irritated. He said it seemed like it knew that they were looking at it. It let out a scream and roar that he's never heard before. He said, I've never heard that in my life. He said, I'm a big game hunter. He said, I've been to Canada to hunt. He said, I go to, Maine to hunt, moose and stuff like that. And he said, I've never heard this in my life. He said, this thing was extremely agitated. He said, it started hitting the water, screaming, baring its teeth at him. And that's when they decided they pulled up the anchor, and he said, all we had was a small trolling motor. He said, we tried to get out of there as fast as we could. And as they were going, other thing, I guess, apparently went back on the bank. It's the only thing I can think of, or there was more than those 2. He said, because all of a sudden rocks were being thrown, and they're probably, he said, 30 feet off the bank past this cove, and the rocks are coming out of the woods, then a log, and then he said they just could hear the screaming and crashing through the woods as they went up to their trailer to put their boat back on the trailer. And he said they they even forgot to strap the boat down. They got the boat on his trailer quick as they could and got out of there.
Yeah, I don't blame them. Yeah, that to me sounds like they were, whatever it was aggressive. You know, I get these two different camps, and you know that, James, that, you know, we got these one group out here that says, oh, they would never hurt man. They're, you know, they give off fuzzy orbs and, you know, all this stuff. And I kind of like those people. I kind of shake my head. But I can tell you, whatever they are, and what they're doing is, I think they're defending their ground. So if you come into their territory, just like anybody, you know, they would defend it. You know, in my case, I'll be honest with you, I really felt, and I still feel, if me and my friend would have stood our ground, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I really don't, because I will say this, what I remember, and I didn't tell you this, before we got to the car, or as we got into the car, I watched this Bigfoot, or whatever it was, bend about a 4-inch tree over like a twig. It just bent it like a bow. And I saw that, and that even terrified me all the more. I think that's why I stuck it in gear and just gunned it just to get out of there.
Yeah, I mean, when you hear things like that, you know, the strength that they have, you know, supposedly they have. I say supposedly because I've not seen it, you know, unlike you firsthand. But when you hear those stories, or you hear the stories of, you know, the accounts where there's rock thrown, or you hear some of them talk about extreme speed, and to me, I mean, I have friends that go both ways on the fence, and I'm still on the fence of what I think they may be, or if they, you know, what they could be.
What do you think, Les? What do you, being on the fence, there's nothing wrong with that, because, you know, all I saw was, you know, what I saw. Do I know if it was a real Bigfoot or some other shapeshifter? It possibly could have been. But what's your feeling? I mean, you know, well, go ahead and share it to us. You got about 2 minutes, and I hate to say it, we got to go for a break for 8 minutes this time because we got the news. But go ahead.
To me, it has to be some kind of an animal, whether it's a terrestrial animal or an extraterrestrial animal. I don't think it's a, you know, you hear the flesh and blood, and you hear the whole interdimensional, you know. But for me, even if it's one or the other, even if it is interdimensional or extraterrestrial, if it's leaving some kind of evidence, that's still some kind of flesh and blood animal, whether it's from here or from somewhere else. So, as far as that, that's where I'm on the fence. As far as being as in a spiritual thing, that's more, I have to have a little bit more, something has to happen a little bit more for me to even lean toward that camp at all. Because it leaves, if it's leaving evidence, if it's leaving a footprint, if it's breaking this or stirring this, it's got to have some kind of physical form to it.
I agree. I mean, you know, like if it was spiritual, I would not have had the dent in the car. So that tells me right there it's something physical, and all the other people that have, you know, had rocks throwing at them, you know, that again, it tells me that it is, you know, physical. If it's anything other than that, it wouldn't be physical. It is, you know, and I believe, seriously, whatever it is, it's flesh and blood. Again, it could be a shapeshifter. It could be what it is, something. Because, you know, the Indian tribes talk about Bigfoot. Up here on the Northwest, there's a tribe called Muckleshoot. Now, back about 2 years ago, I met with their medicine woman. And she told me stories that go all the way back, you know, to the 1870s and even before that about Bigfoot. You know, that their squaws would be out down the river washing their clothes. They would have their babies with them to, you know, naturally, you know, take care of them. And all of a sudden, these Bigfoot would come running through the river and grab either the squaws or the babies or the combination of both. And she said the tribe, you know, the warriors would go after the Bigfoot. And a lot of times they would find the remains. Now, I'm going to let you think about that. We're going to be back, you know, in about 8 minutes. So, you know, has enough time to, you know, take a little break, get a cup of Java. And you out there, too, you know, get yourself a nice, comfy blanket. Get in that you know,